Wi-Fi, wireless networks, other types of wireless. Wi-Fi isn't the only way. As a matter of fact, there are laser-based networks. A buddy of mine had a internet provider that they had a laser signal that was sent from the top of what used to be known as Sears Towers. I think it's Sears Tower in Chicago. I think it's known as Willis Tower now. He lived way out in Naperville, and he had this super fast internet from that laser tower with a receiver on his roof, but it only lasted, it needed a direct line of sight, which works great in Illinois. That part of Illinois is very flat. Had a good line of sight to downtown Chicago, 20 miles away or whatever. But then his neighbor's tree grew too tall, and he couldn't use that laser internet signal anymore. So lots of different ways to connect wirelessly. And in general, we have something called an access point. So an access point would be the Wi-Fi router, for example, that gives you a signal that you can connect into the network through. As we connect into the network, use what are called stations. So the station ends up being something connected into that network through an access point. So our phone would be a station when we're hooking up to Wi-Fi at the coffee shop. Our laptop would be a station when we're hooking up to the Ole Miss Wi-Fi in the classroom. So obviously wireless technology allows greater flexibility. It used to be back in the day we would be racing in to a conference room that maybe we had set up, the client had set up for our engagement, and we would have to get there and plug our laptop into the Ethernet port on the wall and be the first one there so we could do that, and then we would have internet for the day. Or we would have to trade off that internet connection with our coworkers so we could send and receive email. Finally, hubs and later switches came down in price enough that we could get a little portable 4-port or 8-port hub and carry it around with us. So going from client site to client site, you used to have to carry a pretty good packet of gadgets with you in order to be able to connect to the internet while you were working remotely. So Wi-Fi certainly eliminated a lot of that, but it's not without its own risks, obviously, since you're basically broadcasting radio waves that anybody can intercept. So there are a number of advantages. We could connect up to 150 some generally on even your home router, Wi-Fi router devices. Bigger and more powerful devices obviously provide even greater connectivity, so you can expand your network very quickly without adding a whole bunch of new holes in the wall to plug into. So that increases and gives you a lot more flexibility. But from a security standpoint, we have those same three things coming up: confidentiality, integrity, and data availability. So we need to have appropriate, and we also need to have access controls put in place. So we generally protect our Wi-Fi with encryption and probably a login password scheme for anybody that wants to use that Wi-Fi. So when it comes to Wi-Fi, there are all kinds of ways to try and intercept Wi-Fi activity. Eavesdropping, man in the middle. Back in the day, you would see a lot of hotels and businesses would just put their Wi-Fi radio routers right on the wall in the hallway. And most of them would have a USB plug on the back. So I could load up some software on a USB drive, pop it in the back of that thing, and all of a sudden now I have what we call a packet sniffer. It basically intercepts any packet that goes through that router, and it can either store it on the thumb drive and I can look at it later, or I can have it just forward it, clone it and forward it somewhere else, and then I can analyze it later on, try and see if I can find some bank account passwords, things like that. Okay? So lots of different ways to steal Wi-Fi traffic. So that's something you'll want to be aware of when you're working on business in particular, whether it's your own personal banking business or your client's business, out in public Wi-Fi spots. So with Wi-Fi, we want to have management controls in place. So who's going to manage the Wi-Fi? How does that happen? What kind of roles and responsibilities does the networking organization have in conjunction with the overall IT organization? So from an organizational standpoint, you want to make sure you have things set up so that there's separation of duties and who can assign roles and responsibilities, how the policies and procedures get created, and so forth. So we have operational controls that include protecting the actual facilities. War driving is a commonly used, or used to be commonly used, probably still is, way of trying to gain access to unprotected Wi-Fi networks, just driving around until you find one. And this is a way that major companies have gotten their information stolen in the past. TJ Maxx, I believe, was an example where several years ago someone was just parked outside in their parking lot. They were able to connect to the TJ Maxx internal store Wi-Fi, which should have been protected but wasn't, and then steal a bunch of credit card information and a bunch of other customer information from a store, even a bunch of their corporate information from a single store. So operational controls are designed to help prevent that type of activity and include lots of things to help make sure that the organization is aware and follows those practices. Technical controls, these are the types of things that you would see in the equipment itself. How is the internet security software set up? What does it do automatically? How's the router set up? You definitely want to set your router up so that it doesn't have, kind of a standard admin and password type credential set up, which a lot of them used to come that way, and people would not change them, and so it would be real easy to go around and hack into a Wi-Fi system, admin and password. So things like that, just making sure that you come up with custom credentials, security credentials for any type of wireless communications. All right, so that's a quick walkthrough of auditing AIS. Hopefully you found it helpful.